God. Okay, you know what's so funny? When I set out all these chairs last night, I'm shaking. Okay, when I set out all these chairs last night, I was like, there's not that many people here. Like, when I was seeing you all in them, it's kind of giving me like a little bit of a holy shit moment. So thank you. So this is Big Brand Energy in Motion, and I think that's what makes this really special, actually. And you know what's interesting? I get to do this talk that I've been doing across the continent, literally, New York City, Orlando, Nashville, Vancouver, Toronto over the weekend. I've been doing this talk for like 6 or 7 months, and now I get to do it here. And there's a couple of you in this room who have seen it before, Cindy, Alyssa, Tiana, because they came to New York City in August, not to see me speak, but obviously to enjoy the big brand energy, to travel, to get on a plane, to start meeting women from across the continent that they can build their business with, which is really cool. So I've been calling this period of my life the Katrina Owens World Tour, okay? And if you would have told me 12 months ago, a year ago, that this is what I get to spend my time doing, talking to rooms full of talented female entrepreneurs literally across the continent, I would not have believed you. And that's what makes this moment so cool, because not only did I get to travel to events and do this work, but now I get to do it here in a room that I filled, which is also quite monumental. My partner actually told me he didn't think this was going to be a pivotal moment because he's like, I think you've already become the person who can do this. And I actually agree with that, because this whole day I've just felt really calm and cool and grounded and not freaking out. And if you were at my last event back in March, shout out to Tacey and Heather, the two people I could not do this without. They know how stressed I was in the morning. Setting up that event was 30 people, it was a great. Nicola gets mad at me when I kind of downplay that event because I'm like, it was cute, but it wasn't this. But it was a moment that I got to become one little iota closer to the person that I envision being like. So I've got to do this talk all across the continent, telling people why it's so cool for them to start to channel their big dream and bring it to life. And it was funny, a couple months ago, one of my clients, she's in this room right now, she gave me the best compliment of all time, okay? She called me the Taylor Swift of public relations. It was Alyssa. And I was like, oh my God, I love that. I love that so much. So I did what any good online service provider would do with a compliment like that, okay? I picked out some B-roll, some trending audio, text overlaid that amazing compliment on an Instagram reel. And just as I was about to push publish, I hesitated. And that hesitation opened up the floodgates to intrusive thoughts, okay? I started asking myself questions like, is this cringy? Kind of was. Not that cringy, though. Are people going to roll their eyes when they see this? Is this just a little bit too much? But I published it anyways, and nothing bad happened. And then the irony is I started saying that exact same thing on stage. But the ironic part of that is I started saying it when I was in a speaker lineup with people that I would actually consider to be kind of famous, okay? People with, millions of followers on platforms like TikTok, Instagram, YouTube, top podcast hosts, Instagram icons, and I was the one saying, me and my 2,000 followers, I'm the Taylor Swift in this room. That was pretty bold. And it's so funny, because as I started to say it and get more comfortable claiming this word, the Taylor Swift of public relations, or the word famous, I really started to feel that way. I really started to feel like every day I wake up and I'm like, whoa, I feel kind of famous today. Whether that's because I sold a ticket to this event, or because someone referred my business to someone they know, or because someone messages me and said they listened to a podcast episode that I did, and it really impacted them. Each and every one of those things makes me feel kind of famous. But I avoided using this word for so long because I was really triggered by it. Because for the longest time, since I was 2, actually that's a really long time, all I wanted to be was fucking famous. And as I went along on my corporate journey, I started to lose sight of that goal, and I would see other people in my community on Instagram doing these really, really big things and like looking kind of famous. And I would start to feel kind of jealous. Who could relate to feeling kind of jealous when you see someone doing the thing that you want to be doing? Lift the hand up high. Yeah, totally. You know what's really cool about that feeling, though? I actually love when I feel jealous now, because when I feel that way, I recognize that there's something in me that wants what that person has. And one of the coolest things that I've learned is when we watch the people that we admire, when we see them have the thing or do the thing that we really want, that awakens the thing in us that tells us, well, we have two choices. We can go for it or we don't. And that's the choice that you get to make every single day, especially when you leave here with that really big dream. So I started telling people, okay, like, I feel so famous right now. I'm the Taylor Swift of public relations, all while feeling a little bit uncomfortable saying it on stage or even on Instagram, because I know that by saying it, I might trigger someone. I might upset someone. I might make someone feel some type of way. Who in this room right now is feeling a little bit triggered by me using the word famous? And you can be honest. Thank you, Christine. Just two? Christine and Alyssa, two people I know very well. Okay, well, I guess the rest of you are in the right space. Wasn't expecting that. But the amazing thing about learning what triggers us and what makes us feel uncomfortable is we have the option to take a different path. So let me tell you, actually, pause. Christine, what triggers you about the word famous?
Well, you've made me say it out loud here, and I said to Tacey, I feel like an asshole when I say that word. I feel like everybody's going to hate me if I say that.
Ooh, tell me more. Why?
Like nobody likes the famous girl. They want the not famous girl, and they want to cut down the famous girl.
Why?
I don't know. We don't like the popular girl.
Why don't we like the popular girl?
Because we want to be her.
Because we want to be her, because we're jealous. What else? Makes us feel insecure. Yes, all of those things. But I have the pleasure of knowing about 60% of the people in this room right now, and the other 40%, I hope I get to meet you after this or on a call after, or please send me a DM so we can set up a time to connect. The people that I do know, and I mean, if you were drawn to this room, I know deeply that you have a big impact, you have a purpose, you have a mission. And I'm willing to bet that the work that you do, whether it's helping people build wealth, whether it's helping people transform their bodies and love their bodies, maybe you help people mend their relationships, maybe you help people make new friends, build their businesses, whatever it is that you do and you show up to do every single day has a really big impact. So why, Christine and everybody else who might be feeling this way, why do you feel like that isn't worth being famous for? Right. So we are taking what other people might be thinking about us and making it mean something about us. And it doesn't have to. It's a hard one. I am a recovering people pleaser. I actually spoke at an event this weekend called Nice Girl Funeral. Yeah, that was the name. That was a weird one. I have a subset of corporate clients who are quite professional. One of them is actually the VP of the real estate development company I used to work for. And he's always like, Katrina, what company or what event are you speaking at this weekend? And I'm like, it's called Nice Girl Funeral. He's like, oh, well, okay. Wasn't expecting that. But the whole point of this Nice Girl Funeral event was to release this nice girl identity, this people-pleasing identity that we have, and just show up boldly, authentically, and really fucking proud of the work that we do, because it does have an impact. So I got to tell you a little bit more about me, because I had the pleasure of talking to Sarah at lunch, and she's going through something right now. I'm not going to tell you what it is, obviously. I see you. I knew you were a bit nervous. So Sarah started telling me about a situation, and I was like, yeah, business is hard. We go through moments in our business, in our life, where it's not always easy. It's really uncomfortable, and it pushes us to become a different person, to choose a different option. And I know this because I lived it, okay? So before we go too far, I need to tell you a little bit more about what I used to be like. Because like many of us, I was the person who didn't know what it meant to have a purpose, a mission, a vision. I didn't even have a vision board, okay? And not because I didn't know what they were, but because I thought they were kind of stupid. I thought they were stupid because nothing about my future, the 10 years that I worked in corporate, felt like it was up to me. How much money I made, how much vacation time I could take. I remember scrolling Pinterest and seeing like people pin summers on the Amalfi Coast on their vision board, and I would literally think to myself, where are you going to get the time off or the salary to spend 3 months in Italy? Like, it's just not realistic. That was my projection. I should have been so happy for these women or people on Pinterest thinking that that was a possibility for them, but I didn't see it that way for myself. And then I had the pleasure of becoming an entrepreneur. And that journey was also not linear because for the longest time, I didn't want to be one. I have to give a lot of credit to my partner, Gabriel, because he is the man who saw my potential far before I ever did. And it was so interesting how the world works. It tests us. And I said this to Sarah. I'm like, everything happens exactly how it's supposed to at the exact right time, but we will be tested. And that's what happened to me. Because it was just over 3 years ago when I was on this long drive home from the Okanagan. It was 10 years into my corporate marketing career. I had worked in the golf industry, in commercial real estate, in residential real estate, in retail, property management, all of the things. And I knew that I was ready for the next level of my career, and I was working for a company that I really thought was going to give it to me, okay? So I did the thing that they tell all the corporate girlies to do when you're climbing to the top of the ladder. You know, Matthew mentioned it earlier, that corporate ladder. I asked for a raise. And I really knew that I was worthy of the amount that I was asking for because I was doing 3 jobs for the salary of 1, I was coming in early, staying late. So when I got this random meeting invitation in my calendar on 2 p.m. and a Tuesday in October 2022, I thought, this is it. I'm getting my raise, getting my promotion. So I confidently walked into my boss's office that day, sat down, ready to receive the good news, and she looked at me and said, Katrina, I just don't think you're worth a 6-figure salary. Straight to my face. And it was in that moment that I knew she was wrong, but I knew that I had to choose. I could continue to play by everybody else's rules, really dumb rules, by the way, or I could burn the whole corporate ladder down and start over. So that's what I did. I left that day, and I started my marketing and public relations agency, Knockout Directive. And honestly, you guys, we grew really fast. I always say I accidentally scaled to 6 figures in my first year without even trying, before I even knew it was a thing. Before I even knew that that was the goal, I just wanted to show myself and my partner, Gabriel, that I could do the thing that he thought I could do as well. Because it was him, on that long drive home from the Okanagan, that he started to encourage me, started to show me that my life could look entirely different. And there was this really amazing moment on that drive home. Ooh, I've never shared this one on stage before. We were on this drive home where he's like in my ear talking about being an entrepreneur, starting a business, and he told me about a friend that he had. She had a marketing agency, and she was just recently featured on a billboard in Times Square. And I thought to myself, well, that could never be me. And I said that out loud. What would I ever be on a billboard for? And then I burst into tears because in that moment, I heard it. I heard myself and my self-confidence and my self-esteem on the floor. That's how bad it had gotten. I didn't aspire or think that I could even achieve some of these things that he was trying to help me see were possibilities for myself. And I know a lot of you don't know me, but just so we can understand the full circle moment here, a couple months ago I had this amazing opportunity of being on a billboard in Times Square. And when I pulled up to that billboard, walked up to it and saw my face on it, I want to tell you that it was like this incredible full circle moment, but it just felt really normal. Because for the past 3 years, I had been normalizing this vision, making the possibilities seem endless to myself, that seeing myself on a billboard in Times Square didn't seem like a monumental moment, a pivotal moment. It just felt normal, like that's where I should be. And what a fucking cool way to feel, you guys. So, for those of you that might not be familiar with my work, I specialize in public relations for personal brands. So how many of you here are like an online business owner or you have to be the face of your business in some way? Okay, almost everybody here. Okay. And just out of curiosity, maybe how many of you are corporate leaders or people where you're like, I don't necessarily have to be the face of a personal brand or a business, but I'm not sure if I even have a personal brand, just so I know, because some people didn't raise their hand. Okay, okay, Jody, interesting. I'm confused about that one. We're going to talk about that later. Each and every one of you, whether you work in corporate, whether you're self-employed, whether you are maybe having the opportunity to just do what you want to do in life because maybe you're, fun employed? You have a personal brand. And that personal brand is what helps you become a best-selling author. It's what helps you become a paid speaker. It's what helps you become a not-for-profit CEO. It's what helps you become a community leader. So I want to give you guys a little bit of a formula that I've used, and I use it with all my clients, called the FAME formula. Because this is really how we build this famous personal brand. And a lot of the time when people say, or people hear me say that I have this formula, they expect a checklist. I'm not going to stand up here on stage and tell you to post 3 times a week, pitch yourself to podcasts, network, because I'm assuming you already know that part, okay? Those things are important, but this is where we get a little bit deeper than that, okay? So when I talk about the FAME formula, got a little bit of a different angle on this microphone, we start with the F. The F is for founder. That's each and every single one of you. And I realized the power of my personal brand when I was a couple months into running my business, and I took on a marketing agency as a client, and it was run by 2 dudes. And one of them said to me, Katrina, I want you to be the face of our company. And I was like, why? He's like, because people are drawn to your energy. People are receptive to you. I think you could help us take our company to the next level if you can represent our brand out there at networking events, out there on social media. And I thought to myself, well, you're the business owners. You've had this business for 10 years. Go do it yourself. But they were 2 dudes who would rather sit behind a computer screen and, not go out into the real world and have to network and meet new people. And it was that moment that I realized just how valuable our personal brand really is. Because if someone else was willing to pay me whatever I wanted, that was the disclaimer, how much do you want? Surely my personal brand must be far more valuable than I'm really thinking that it is. And then I started to see this more and more, because when I started growing my business, I had to start showing up online more. How many of you actually are uncomfortable with showing up online right now? Like Instagram stories, talking to the camera. Yeah, a lot of us. Yeah, it's uncomfortable. And this might surprise all of you based on how much I show up. 3 years ago, I did not have an online presence. I did not talk to the camera. I would have rather died. But as I started stepping up and embracing the mission that I had, and the work that I did, I realized just how powerful it really was. And lucky for me, I had a whole slew of people to help me feel more confident on camera and with the work that I do. So we'll talk a little bit about that in a bit. So founder, that's you. And when you start to really dig deep and realize the impact that you have, that's when you can start showing up more proudly, more confidently with your message. But I need you to know something. It's never going to be perfect. You're never going to show up in the way that makes you feel 100% good with how you're showing up. It's always going to be like, maybe I should have brushed my hair. Maybe I should have said something a little bit more eloquently. But if you use that as excuses, as barriers to showing up, you're never going to be able to have the impact that you need to. So that's the F. The A is for audience, because without an audience, you don't have customers, you don't have clients, you don't have people to listen to your podcast, read your book, listen to you talk at a networking event. An audience is where our ego gets in the way, because we think when we have a personal brand and it's all about us, we make it about us. But the reality is, if you run a business, like we talked about earlier, the impact that you have, the transformation that you impart on the people that you work with, your work is all about them. So when you don't show up confidently, authentically in your power, you are not only doing yourself a disservice, but your entire audience. And I see this a lot. I see this every single day. Someone decides to water down their message, not participate in a particular opportunity, not stand up and share their work confidently because their ego gets in the way, because we want it to be perfect, but it's never going to be. The M is for media. I'm the PR girl, so I will tell you, each and every one of you have an incredible opportunity to grow a platform. I mean, 3 years ago, I was the one that was like, never gonna be famous, never gonna be on a billboard in Times Square, never gonna speak on a stage. And look at how quickly that changed. And that changed because I was willing to use the skills that I had in PR on myself. And it felt insane at first. I would ask myself questions like, who am I to pitch myself to a podcast? What would I possibly talk about? What could I possibly be known for? What could I possibly engage an audience with? Which is such a funny thing to say, as I have 60 people looking at me for the next thing to say. Each and every single one of you could get on a top 1% podcast. Like, let's talk about some of the big ones. Who listens to, like, Call Her Daddy, or, like, Giggly Squad, or, like, this is showing my millennial. Jody's raising her hand. Yeah, we got some head nods. The Lady Gang. Those opportunities, actually, you know what's really amazing? This is unscripted. But over the weekend, I actually met a woman who I was sharing a speaker lineup with, and she said to me, I manifested the best thing ever. It's the one thing that I've wanted for forever and ever since I started my business. And I was like, what is that? She said, I was just interviewed on the Skinny Confidential podcast. Yeah, if you're not familiar, it's a pretty big podcast in the, I would say, millennial online business owner space. And this was a girl just like me, by the way. Maybe she was a little bit further ahead in terms of running her business. Maybe she had done a few things differently, but I had a moment where I felt a little bit jealous because I was like, holy, I want to be on the Skinny Confidential podcast. But I checked that, and I was like, if she can do it, so can I. And so I stand up on this stage with this event that I put together to show you what's possible for yourself, because what's really amazing is we've all shared our big dreams here, and if you were at the VIP brunch last week, we all went around the table and had a chance to share out loud what those things were. And it's been really incredible to actually hear the follow-up from all of that. But when it comes to speaking on a stage or becoming a best-selling author or being on a podcast or being on TV, because I know that's a couple of dreams, we got Oprah and wanting to be on Oprah's couch here, those things are possible for you, but only if you're willing to put your ego aside and start small. So this is when I talk about public relations, okay? Because it's available to each and every one of you. We can talk about all of the very glamorous podcasts and TV shows and speaking engagements, but if you're not willing to show up for the small podcast or on your Instagram stories, then we're never gonna get the big one and the bigger one and the pivotal moment one. And that's what I love so much about this work, because when we start small, we show ourselves that we can do it. We build the confidence. We build the nervous system capacity to hold it. And that's when we get bigger and bigger. And I know some of you were at the very first event I ever did back in March. It was 30 people. It was a podcast launch party. Nicola gets mad at me because I kind of downplay it. And it was cute, but look at this. And she's like, that was a moment in time, and that moment built up my nervous system capacity to do this, to do an event that was double the size and quadruple or quintuple the budget. And who knows what I will do next year, but I'm sure it will be awesome. But I need to tell you guys, if you're not willing to do the small thing first, then I don't think the big things come. And that's the moment that I have to be really, really real with you, because we're all here sharing our big dreams out loud, and I know that some of you are gonna go out there and you're gonna be like, yes, let me go get them. But some of us are gonna get hung up on the fact that it needs to be perfect or bigger or sparklier before you start. And if you wait for that moment, it's never gonna come, okay? The first speaking gig I ever did, it was incredible, actually. Tacey was there. It was 2 months in to running my business full-time, downtown Vancouver, over 200 people, internet masterminds. The premise was whoever had the best strategy would get like foam balls thrown at them. So I was like on the stage giving the strategy, like getting pelted with these foam balls. It was really fun. The video's still on YouTube, actually. So I was doing the speaking gig, and that was the moment that I really thought to myself, oh my God, this is what I'm meant to be doing. What you don't know about that opportunity is the reason why I was asked was because they needed another woman on the speaker lineup. And I was the only one that said yes. Because like, who's crazy enough to like get foam balls thrown at them at their very first speaking gig ever to 200 people? So I didn't get that opportunity because I was the most qualified, because I was the best speaker, because I had built an incredible personal brand overnight. I received it based on an opportunity, and I was willing to say yes in that moment. So I would love to tell you that the next speaking gig I did was even more incredible, bigger audience, bigger budget, bigger spotlights. But it wasn't, because I didn't have a personal brand in place. I had about 300 followers on Instagram. I was not showing up consistently. I didn't have something to be known for. So I had to put my ego aside when the next opportunity came through, because it was to an audience of 20 people in downtown Vancouver, local neighborhood business association, in an orthopedic shoe store at 7 a.m. Yeah. And I could have grumbled about the fact that it wasn't sparklier, sexier, bigger than the first one. I could have said, I've just spoken on this big stage, and now you want me to speak surrounded by Asics and New Balance? But I didn't. I walked into that place like it was Madison Square fucking Garden, because to me it really was, and I knew that that could have an incredible impact on my business. It was the very first time I ever delivered a full-length presentation about public relations for small businesses, and I actually signed 2 clients from that speaking gig. And that's how I knew I was onto something. But if I would have let my ego get in the way, if I would have said, not now, it's too small, it's not the right audience, then I would have delayed myself all the opportunities that come after. Because much like you're witnessing right now, this is literally so meta. Me being on the stage, having the content, having the thing, having the brand, this is how you create big brand energy. I'm showing you in person. This is how you start small. My smaller event in March, my speaking in an orthopedic shoe store 3 years ago. These are the moments that build on each other so you can one day speak on a big stage or get paid $25,000 to do it. And that's what I want for each and every one of you. So the next part of this presentation, we're going to talk about the E, which is execution. And this is all just so meta. And this part is a little bit unscripted but unscripted. So bear with me, because it's my first time doing this. Literally my first time doing this, because the E stands for execution. So we have founder, audience, media, and we have execution. And what's really interesting is one of our sponsors is Adobe Acrobat, okay? And I'm sure some of you are sitting out there wondering, how did Katrina get Adobe Acrobat to sponsor an event in Abbotsford with 60 people? Did anyone wonder that? You can be honest. Matt. Okay, well, I'm going to tell you, because it's the power of being in a room like this. It's the power of taking a bet on yourself. So I had mentioned a couple months ago I was in Nashville. I went to an event much like this one. Smaller rooms, about 50 people. I was speaking at that event, and it was sponsored by Adobe Acrobat. And the event coordinator said in one of her emails, she was like, hey, the Adobe Acrobat crew is going to be hanging out in the coffee shop before the VIP dinner. If you want to chat with them or connect with them, they're there, and you can just like pop by. It's an event of like 50 to 60 people, and me and my friend Taylor were the only 2 people that showed up to talk to the representatives from Adobe Acrobat. And not because we thought we would get sponsored or a brand partner or anything like that, but simply because we know the power of relationship. So we had this great conversation with the Adobe Acrobat team. Connected. I mean, one of the women has become a really close friend and colleague of mine just through conversation. And after I'd come home, I got an email and was just like, hey, Katrina, would love to chat with you about joining our Acrobat community team. And I was kind of like, okay, not sure what that looks like, but yeah, let's have a conversation. And I took the time to get on a Zoom call, and then I quickly learned that this is an opportunity. We talk about what if this is the day that changes everything. That was a moment, because that's when I realized that there was this big brand, multinational, that was willing to get behind the events that I do, the work that I do, and be a partner in that. And this event would not have been possible without the amazing financial contribution that they gave. And next week I get to go to Los Angeles to be a content creator for their big convention in Los Angeles. And then I'm doing a couple speaking gigs on their behalf as this months go on. And that is not an opportunity I would ever thought was possible for like little old me with 2,000 followers. Seriously, I was on this call yesterday where we're talking about this convention next week, and I was literally looking up the other creators, people with 100,000 followers, 500,000 followers, 1 million followers, and I thought, me? And then when I got here today, and I had some amazing messages from the people I get to work with at Adobe Acrobat, I realized that they believe in the power of this type of work, connection, relationship building, because that's how it started for me. So we're going to talk about the E, execution, which is brought to you in part by our good friends at Adobe Acrobat Studio, because they have some incredible features coming out, and I'm going to give someone a promo code at the end as a gift to be able to try out some of these amazing features. Execution really is the foundation of everything you're going to do when it comes to becoming famous, growing a personal brand, using public relations, because if you don't have execution, if you don't have the team, the systems, or the support in place, you're never going to bring the big brand energy to life. So I alluded to earlier, having a team that supports you in creating content. Shout out Tasty Joy Creative and Heather from my team. Maybe this is actually really fun. Maybe you need a bookkeeper. Shout out to mine, Brittany. Maybe you need someone to keep you healthy. Emma, Dr. Emma, gave me an IV drip a couple weeks ago so I didn't burn out in this process. So do you see how much support is right here in this room right now? And that's what you get when you start to work with people like Adobe Acrobat on turning your visibility into momentum. So the thing that I want to make super, super clear is you can have the best strategy, but if you don't have the systems in place, you're not going to be able to bring your biggest dreams to life. And this is going to be small. I'll send it to you afterwards. I actually would love to do like a live demo, because if this is something that you're really interested in using in your work, I highly recommend it. Because Adobe's created something called Acrobat Studio, which is an opportunity to go deeper into the world of AI, content development, and content management using a system that's entirely private to you. So for me, execution is always about creating flow. I know I'm very organized, but it's only because I have the proper support and systems in place to actually be that way. And when it comes to Adobe Acrobat, they have this amazing new feature called PDF Spaces, and this is where you get to dump all of the PDFs that you've ever had and actually use them to create your next visibility plan, or maybe it's your next financial projection, Cindy, or maybe it's your next book outline, because I'll tell you a little bit about how I use that as well. So what I want to show you is this is where my brand lives, breathes, and evolves. So I upload all of my documents to Adobe Acrobat Studio, and the funny story about all of this is a couple months ago, actually I guess it was not that long ago, 2 months ago, I was working on my book outline, and I actually texted Matthew when this happened. I was like, I just wrote my entire outline in a Sunday. Go me. And I thought I was ahead of the game. And he was actually just really excited for me, but I wondered if part of him actually wondered if I had done it properly. Because I hadn't met with a book coach yet. I hadn't done a lot of the homework, but I had written out this outline that I thought was pretty good. And then I had this like really rude awakening when I got my very first call with my book coach, Brett. And I showed him my outline. I was so proud of it. And as we were kind of talking it through, I realized that there were some things that I hadn't done, quote unquote, by the book. So I had created an outline based on what I wanted it to be, not thinking about what my audience might enjoy, okay? Go back to the fame formula. We were doing the founder, we were not doing the audience. And so Brett said to me, okay, I'm gonna have you do this again, but this time, start to bring in some other ideas. Maybe you wanna put it into like an AI tool and just kind of play around. And I was like, okay, it feels like a lot of work. I was really proud of this outline, but here we go. So it was so interesting because at the same time as when I started working with Adobe Acrobat Studio, and I had already dumped all of my media kits, any service guide for any of my clients. My PDF space actually knew every single thing about me and my work. So I'm like, why don't we just give this a shot? I took that book outline and I uploaded it to PDF space and was like, based on everything that you know about me and my business, the services that I offer, my bio, the media I've been featured in, what is missing from this book outline? And using, and I know this is hard to read, but I'll send this to you after, using their generative AI tool, Adobe Acrobat Spaces and the AI Assistant, I was able to actually start to build out a better outline, which was really cool. And I think that's what most of us are missing, because we think we have to do it all alone, okay? We think we have to rely on our own knowledge. We have to do things by ourselves. This feels reminiscent of the conversation I had with Sarah. We can feel like we're out on our own island as we build our business, but it doesn't have to be that way. And this room is meant to show you that you don't have to do it alone. And Adobe Acrobat Studio is here to show you you can actually do it with better systems in place. So when I send this out to you, you'll be able to see that I basically created a new book outline in one afternoon, and I also created a strategic book launch plan. Because I started to play with all of these events that I was hosting. I'm going to say it on a stage. I started taking singing lessons. So there are a couple of things I have in the works, and I was like, what could a book launch look like for me in a year? Guys, can you imagine if in a year I sing on a stage? I think it's going to happen. But I got to put all of this into Adobe Acrobat Studio, and it basically built a whole visibility plan for me. So when I send this out to you, you'll be able to see how you can use AI Assistant to literally prompt it just as you would ChatGPT or any generative AI tool that you might like using. But the really important thing to know is that anything that you put into a PDF space is private to you. So the thing with AI, which maybe we don't all know, is that when we upload things to ChatGPT or Claude or whatever one is your favorite, that can be used to train future models. So your information is not necessarily entirely private. But when you use PDF space, it is. And that's what I love about it so much, because I think the things that I'm working on are top secret, and I would hate for someone else to get the big brand energy plan, because maybe one day ChatGPT tells somebody, oh, big brand energy, great title for an event. But that's how it can happen. So that's why it's so important to use tools like these. We talked a little bit about some big dreams earlier today, but what I really want people to leave with is an action plan. So does anyone feel comfortable telling me, or maybe we can workshop it right here live, what the next action step for you is going to be when you leave this room for your big dream? Raise your hand if you're ready for this. Nicole, please tell us your big dream first.
I want to be a sideline reporter, interviewer at Formula One.
Oh, shit. Round of applause for that one. I'm sweating just hearing that. I love that dream. Okay, so tell me, what's the next action step that you are going to take when you leave here today to execute on that goal?
Well, I kind of did the step after brunch.
Okay.
There's a really big convention industry show in Vegas in 2 weeks. And I was on the fence of if I should go. And so I decided I was feeling really anxious about the decision because I was flip-flopping.
Okay.
So then I was like, you know what, I'm going to make a decision. I'm going to decide not to go.
Oh, like not going is a great decision.
I was getting anxiety from not deciding. And then that decision didn't feel good. So then I was like, fuck it, I'm just going to book a ticket. I actually don't have my credentials to go to the show yet. But the trip is planned, like it's booked, I'm going. Whether I actually get in with my credentials or not, I'm going to be there. So
A really great quote or line that I love is, the how is none of your business. Yeah. You're just going to go and it's all going to work out. And if it doesn't, you'll learn something. But I have a feeling it's going to work out.
I felt a lot better when I decided, like when I redid my decision and was like, I'm just going to say yes. Then all that anxiety all of a sudden went away that I thought would go away when I said no.
Ooh, so sometimes our anxiety tells us something about ourselves, right? Like it was telling you, and we misinterpret it. We're like, might be telling me that I shouldn't go because it's unsafe. But it was actually telling you to take the leap. I can't wait to hear about how it goes.
I know some people in F1,
Okay.
but I don't know them like personally yet. I've met them like at events or through other connections. So again, I don't know how that's going to move forwards.
Yep. I'll give you an action step building on that. I would reach out to them if you haven't already and just tell them that you're going. And sometimes the best thing that we can do is just be like really honest and just say, okay, I'm going. I don't know how I'm going to get in, but like, I just wanted to let you know, like, I'm there. Maybe we can grab a coffee and just open the door because maybe someone has an extra credential or has a contact. So sometimes the best thing we can do is like be super honest about like where we're at and what we have or don't have. And the right people will open the right doors for us. Frick yeah. Okay, who else? Big dream, action step.
I want to speak on a stage with 200 plus people in a different location, like not locally. And I recently submitted a real cool talk, and I feel like I've already gotten it. So
You feel like we've already gotten it. That's the key. Okay, that's an action step. You applied to speak at this event. Okay, cool. So what comes after that?
so many things.
So to not put all your eggs in one basket, although we feel like we've gotten that one, how can we continue to maybe execute on this goal?
Well, I have a whole plan, so I'm working on it.
Yeah.
I signed up for Podmatch.
Okay.
Because I want to get on more podcasts, so I feel more comfortable speaking. So I actually paid to pay for the next 2 months, and I'm currently doing a yes time period of my business.
A year of yes. Maybe not a full year, but a time period of yes.
As many yeses as I possibly can. Small, big. I spoke at the weirdest little spot on Monday in this room with 15 people. And it was a yes. It was similar to yours, where there was a moment where I was like, what am I doing? But you know what? Those people, it was awesome. And everybody was so excited to learn about SEO. And they were all like, we've never heard anybody talk about it like this. And so I was like, yeah.
I love it. I'm sure that 200-person audience is in your future. Okay, who else? Yes, Blake.
So my big goal is to move back to Ireland. For those who don't know, I just moved back here a few months ago. I lived there for 2 years. And I want to create an organization for other amputees, as that's not something they have available there.
So what's the next action step?
Well, I'm currently enrolled in school to qualify myself for a certain visa that can get me back to Ireland. So that's step one. And then the 5-year plan is to get back there, build my career in the construction project management industry, and on the side, build my own platform with my YouTube and Instagram. And then hopefully once that gets out there, then I can start helping other amputees.
I love that so much. And I think for you, I would say make time in your plan or in your schedule to dream a little. Like this is something I tell all of my clients. It's like you got to have the time block to work on the big dream. Even if it's just like 30 minutes a week, it's like the dedicated you time, and you just got to like, maybe you start to think about what the name could be or like what the brand colors look like. Like just start to let the mind go. And I think it'll come quite faster than you think. So cool. Okay, anybody else? I could probably share another one. Okay, I'll give you guys one more because I got so many. I kind of alluded to it. I want to sing on a stage, but there's more, obviously. My dream would be to like sing on stage with like one of my favorite bands. And I am just delusional enough to think that I could actually make that happen. So I don't want to just be like famous, but like I want to like sing on a stage with like a well-known band kind of famous. So that's what I'm working on. So my first step was I started working with a vocal coach. Okay, so I have to tell you guys, in our very first meet and greet, he looked at me and he was like, Katrina, I have to let you know something. Singing is really hard. I'm like, oh, trust me, I know. Because here I was thinking that I was a singer for like my entire life until the moment I told my partner, Gabriel, that I wanted to take singing lessons. Gabriel said to me, have you ever even sang before? I'm like, what am I doing in the car, in the house? Like, we don't qualify that as singing? I was a little bit offended, but that tells you how good my voice is. But I'm taking singing lessons, and that was my first step, and I'm not sure this vocal coach knew what to expect, but then the conversation continues on, and he's like, okay, so do you have any blocks around like learning how to sing or taking singing lessons? And I was like, yeah, a big one. I have a block around the fact that at some point in this day, I'm gonna have to sing in front of you and be really bad at it. And that was like a couple weeks ago, and I actually didn't really have to sing in front of him that time, but my lesson is tomorrow or on Friday. And this is when I actually really have to like go for it. So I'll keep you guys posted on what that looks like. But these are the things, these are the action steps, and it was so funny, sitting in his studio a couple weeks ago, I was like, I'm one step closer to this really big dream of singing on a stage with like maybe one of my favorite bands. That's how it happens, folks, and I have no shame about sharing that piece out loud because I just think it's so important. So as you kind of go along in this journey, and we have a little bit more of our day together before we finish it off with a bang, I really just want to encourage each and every one of you to get really comfortable sharing the dream out loud. I mean, I know Nicola had you share it with whoever was beside you. Maybe that felt really triggering, or maybe you were shy about it, or maybe you just like let it out. But wherever that kind of discomfort came up for you, like really acknowledge that, because that's the resistance, and that's the piece that you have to work through to be able to bring the next version of you, the person that walks out of this room today, to life. So with that, I never want this all to like be about me. Remember, fame formula, founder, audience, all of you, media, execution, we've done all of them. So this next part of the day is really special to me because I wanted to show you that visibility comes in lots of different forms, okay? Just because I choose to do something one way, have an event, speak on stage, sing on stage, all these different things, does not mean that it always has to look that way.